just let me introduce our house band while we do this. They're going to unlock the puzzles of Copenhagen via the Copenhagen Sprint.
Stupid show, welcome to the stupid show, stupid show!
Good.
Walk on, what can you say?
Nice to meet you. So, the Copenhagen Sprint is this. And I'll just spin through very quickly what it is, and then Mark, you're going to explain what all these little men are doing, and women. So basically, this is what we've got to do in the next 2 weeks. Either we're going to have, 1 week left. This is that having no deal at all. And this over here is safety, climate safety. And presumably climate safety is what we all, seeing as we're dependent on the atmosphere remaining habitable, presumably we all want that. But as you can see, all these countries different points towards safety. And there's some very key important points. One is the Suicide Pact, and that's basically a deal that gets agreed where we are committed to entering runaway climate change. Runaway climate change, as Mark was supposed to say earlier but didn't, is where we hit 2 degrees, 1.5, 2 leads to 3, 3 leads to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6. Basically, it gets unstoppable. There's nothing more we can do about it. By the time we hit 6 degrees, it's about over for life on Earth. So that's the Suicide Pact deal. Then there is the coin flip deal, which is what countries like the EU and the UK, we're going to get into the detail, but they want, and basically that would give us a 50-50, a coin flip chance of entering runaway climate change. And then, going past that, there is the option that we could get a better deal. We could get into the good chance deal, which is basically, excuse me Mark, which is basically above 50-50. And then beyond the good chance is the even better chance, and then we get there and we're safe. So that's it. Mark, you're going to say where the countries are.
Can I go back now?
Yeah, where they are. This is the beginning of the week, before Copenhagen, and you're going to explain and move them as they've moved,
right,
but
so
not too many.
So this is bad, and this is good, right?
Exactly, so bad. Let's start with some bad guys.
Let's start with somebody who
He's
appears to have
lying
died.
down. Yeah.
This is Saudi Arabia. They've basically committed harakiri or whatever they do, because Saudi Arabia tries to block every single deal. Nothing to do at all with being an oil-producing country.
No.
Absolutely, completely unrelated. Canada.
They even brought up climate denial in the opening.
They did.
plenary,
I'd forgotten about that actually. So the whole climate gate email saga that's been blowing on for the last 2 weeks. Saudi Arabia brought it up and tried to say that this undermined the science, and therefore we shouldn't even be discussing global warming because it doesn't exist.
So I think they should go back a bit, don't you?
They can fall off that board here.
Yeah.
Canada is also pretty much in the bad zone here, because their emissions reduction proposal is -3% on 1990 levels, right? So they only want to reduce their emissions by 3%,
right?
Not a huge amount.
Is that when they came to Copenhagen, or now? Have they moved?
They haven't moved. This is what they started with.
Okay,
and
so they're staying still.
Exactly, and it's basically the same position as the US.
US.
We're giving the US a bit more leeway, though.
Why are they so much further ahead than Canada?
The US shouldn't actually be that much further ahead than Canada, to be honest. But we're giving
them technical.
We're giving them a bit more leeway because they've got a new administration. Canada basically just follows the US. They haven't this Obama bloke. I don't really know much about him.
I hear he won a prize yesterday.
Did he?
Yeah.
All right. Who else do you want to talk about? Australia, New Zealand?
Yes, let's talk about them.
Now, Australia actually is doing pretty well. If you take it on 1990 levels, they're going to reduce their emissions by 13%. So they're a little bit further forward on the bar.
But they're only saying 13% if everybody else does theirs too.
Yeah, many of these targets are conditional, and
right.
they're also judged on different baselines, so it's actually very difficult to compare them all. But if we look at this collective group here is the EU as a whole. Now, the EU is going to reduce its emissions by between 20 and 30% on 1990 emissions by 2020.
By 2020.
Right, but 20%.
That's quite significant, right?
20% is the offer on the table at the moment.
Yeah.
It'll go up to 30% if you get a good deal out of Copenhagen.
So that's what the EU is going for, right? 30% by 2020.
Yeah.
If that got accepted, and if all the countries of the rich countries cut their emissions by that much, it would still where would it be on here? It'd be beyond suicide, less than coin flip.
It would be right into coin flip, I think, because what counts, of course, is the 2050 target, because this is long-term emissions, and the EU proposal is actually to have emissions cut by 80 to 95% by 2050. So that's pretty serious. That's almost dealing with the problem.
And why is our country in the lead on the EU?
Well, we have
Is it because of the age of stupid?
Yeah, we're part of the EU, so we have the same broad targets as the EU as a whole. But we have a legally binding Climate Change Act.
Yep.
So we're the only country in the world which actually has mandated its government legally to actually to reduce the emissions by the amount that it says it's going to. That's very important.
And I'm going to put this country on its head for reasons which will become clear in the next bit. Anything else? Just give us a couple more.
Well, where's China?
Where's
Can you
India
see
and
China?
China? There they are.
There's India and China. And these countries are even more complicated because they, under Kyoto, they didn't have any targets because they're developing countries. They haven't caused a problem. They need to grow their economies, so on and so forth. Now,
which you agree with, right? We agree with.
That's irrelevant. The point is that they have committed to targets for the first time ever at Copenhagen, but these targets are not reduction targets.
So that's a major move forward then, committed.
Hold on a sec, because these targets are targets of intensity, cutting the intensity, so the amount of carbon they produce per unit of GDP.
But don't they get to move forward just for committing to something?
So China's target is to reduce its emissions by 45% by 2020, below business as usual in terms of its carbon intensity, right? I'm not even doing a very good job of explaining about this. So actually, it could increase its absolute emissions by 100%, whilst reducing the emissions intensity by 45%. So it's the absolute emissions that count as far as the climate's concerned.
Let's just have one good guy, because then we have to move on.
Give
us one really good guy.
Well, all of these are good guys. These three here have carbon neutral targets. Norway by 2030, Costa Rica by 2021.
Meaning the whole economy is going to go carbon neutral.
Maldives by 2019.
When did they announce that they were going to go carbon neutral?
In March, I think.
Yeah, where was that?
The launch of some film or other. I can't remember what it was called.
The whole economy is going to go carbon neutral in 10 years.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
In fact, I'm one of the people in charge of actually making this happen.
Good. So stop wasting your time here. So basically, if all the countries of the world were going to do that, then we would be climate safe.
Yes. If all the countries end up in this safety zone here and have carbon neutral targets within a fairly short space of time, obviously the countries which are Maldives, it's easier because they're quite a small emitter. They're a small country. They've got quite low per capita emissions.
Yeah.
I mean, to get the US to have a carbon neutral target, well, that's still a long way to go. If we do that, then we are all in a safety zone.
Well, we've got another 5 days to talk about all these lovely things, but now we're going to go to a video